Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to another episode of the Zhuge Liang Northern Expedition lore series as we continue with episode 9, titled Small Victories. Now, in our last episode, we kicked off the third Northern Expedition, with Zhuge Liang sending General Chen Shi with a small army to target the fringe commanderies of Wudu and Yinping. For the Kingdom of Wei, these two commanderies were largely fringe buffer commanderies that have long been vacated by Cao Cao's forced migration policies ever since his defeat at Hanzhong. But for the Kingdom of Shuhan, both of these commanderies offer strategic value, as Wudu will serve as a perfect springboard for future campaigns out of Mount Qi Path, while Yinping could become a potential defensive liability should Wei ever launch an offensive campaign against Shuhan, as the Yinping Path located inside this commandery could bypass the key Shuhan choke point at Jianmen. But precisely because Cao Cao's forced migration policies have vacated much of these two commanderies and drained their economic value, the Wei forces only kept a bare-bone defense in these regions, and even during the first northern expedition, Zhuge Liang felt entirely safe to completely ignore the Wei garrisons at Wudu, as attacking them would be entirely a waste of time. So in terms of difficulty, Chen Shi's task was not hard. In addition, Chen Shi was a seasoned general by this point in his career, as he rose up the ranks as a mid-level commander, serving directly under Liu Bei. Even though his previous appearance in historical records had been a failed attack, it was clear that Liu Bei had trusted him, as he was one of the two generals along with Wu Ban in charge of the Shuhan Navy during the Battle of Yiling. And by this time period, with the passing of many of Shuhan's older generals, such as the Five Tiger Generals, as Zhao Yun had died of old age during the second Northern Expedition, Chen Shi ranked as probably the fourth or fifth best general at Zhuge Liang's disposal, ranking after the likes of Wei Yan, Wu Ban, and Gao Xiang. But what Zhuge Liang did not expect is that Guo Huai would once again show up for the Wei defense, as he would largely ignore his annual reporting duties as the prefect of the Yong province. Knowing Guo Huai's talent and preparedness of the Yong province garrison this time around, Zhuge Liang could not see another one of his northern expeditions end in failure, as he would immediately mobilize the rest of the Shuhan army, as he would personally march up to the city of Jianwei, north of Chen Shi's position in Wudu, to buy Chen Shi time. Now, secretly, Zhuge Liang wanted to seek an open field showdown with the Wei Western forces, as it has become apparent from the few exchanges in prior expeditions that the Shuhan force were now stronger on the field. But Guo Huai was also well aware of this, as once he realized that he could not link up with the defenders at Wudu, he would halt his advance as he ordered his men into a full retreat out of these two commanderies, as if he risked a showdown with Zhuge Liang's main forces here out in the open and lost, then the safety of the entire Yong province would be at risk. On the Shuhan side, Zhuge Liang reached Jianwei and immediately started constructing defensive encampments as he prepared the army for potential Wei reinforcements, as he too knew that the commanderies of Wudu and Yinping would be small wins, but if these sieges could draw out the Wei garrisons of Yong province into a fight on the open field, then Shuhan can finally score a much-needed grand victory that could potentially turn the tide out west. But unfortunately, Guo Huai would not give Zhuge Liang his chance, as no Wei reinforcement would come to save Wudu and Yinping, as Chen Shi would be able to secure both commanderies not long after. While disappointed at losing the chance for a bigger victory, Zhuge Liang still celebrated the win, as the third northern expedition would finally bring about some actual material gains for the Kingdom of Shuhan. The Wudu commandery would be fortified as Zhuge Liang ordered the constructions of gate passes at key positions, while farms along the Han River that ran through the Mount Qi Path and thus the Wudu commandery were cultivated, as they would become key resupply points for the next northern expedition. Contacts with the local Qiang and Di tribe were reestablished as Zhuge Liang played up their past relationship with the Han Dynasty and Ma Chao in an effort to gain their support and hopefully conscriptions for future campaigns. At the home front, the acquisition of these two commanderies, in addition to the defeat of Wang Shuang's pursuit army at the end of the Second Northern Expedition, pleased Emperor Liu Shan as he would restore the prime minister title to Zhuge Liang, undoing the self-demotion following Ma Su's appointment at Jieting. But not all was well for Shu Han, as Zhuge Liang's posturing at Jianwei and the mobilization of the entire army so soon after the retreat of Chencang would completely exhaust the Shu Han supply reserves, and future northern expeditions would have to wait at least another year, if not two. In essence, Guo Huai's decisive retreat and abandonment of these two fringe buffer commanderies bought Wei roughly 2 years of time to reassess the situation on the Western Front while preserving the Western garrisons. Yet this reassessment would take a wild turn, as in July of 230, roughly half a year after Zhuge Liang's third northern expedition, Cao Zhen would appeal to the Wei imperial court that the situation out west required a more offensive approach, as the perpetual defensive approach handicapped their overall economic and military advantage over Shu Han. Under Cao Zhen's suggestion, the Wei forces should take the Baoxie path directly into Hanzhong and take the initiative against Zhuge Liang, who not only had constructed 2 new fortified cities named Han and Yue within the plains of Hanzhong, but also moved his prime minister office directly onto the plains of Hanzhong, as it was a clear message that the Shu Han army would remain in Hanzhong as they would await for their next chance to strike. Initially, the Wei court vehemently disagreed with Cao Zhen's assessment, as Grand Excellency Chen Qun argued that the Baoxie path was still in poor shape in the aftermath of Zhao Yun's retreat during the first northern expedition, which meant that it would be difficult for a large army to move into or out of this path alone. Hearing this dissent, Cao Zhen presented a much more ambitious counterproposal for a total Wei mobilization, where he and the Western forces would take the shortest path at Ziwu. The main Wei Central Army, under the command of Sima Yi, would then take the Mount Qi path along the Han River, and then a third smaller army under the command of General Zhang He would end up taking the Baoxie path, as these 3 forces would meet up in Hanzhong with a 3-front attack to retake this critical area from the kingdom of Shu Han, as once Hanzhong was taken, Shu Han essentially would be trapped within the Yi province. And after much debate and contemplation, Emperor Cao Rui approved of this plan, as Wei's first offensive attempt against Shu Han would soon be underway. And with that, our episode also comes to an end, as we'll continue next time to see how Cao Zhen's experience with the famed Ziwu path would draw parallels with Wei Yan's proposal to Zhuge Liang, and how the Shu Han forces would repel this massive Wei attack on 3 fronts. So hopefully you all have enjoyed this episode enough to hit that like button to help support the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!